There is a moment when the pressure drops and everything seems a little more obvious. The body is less tense. The thought feels less aggressive. The question no longer presses with the same force. And because of that, the mind begins to trust what it sees. It says, "Now I'm calm. Now I can understand. Now I'm probably seeing clearly." But calm does not always mean clarity. Sometimes it means the system is no longer overwhelmed. Sometimes it means the pressure has decreased. Sometimes it means the mind has found a version of the situation that feels easier to hold. That is not the same thing as seeing the truth. This is the mistake. You assume that because the inner noise is lower, your perception must be more accurate. But lower noise is not the same as deeper seeing. A calmer state can still protect an old conclusion. A softer feeling can still hide an avoidance. A quieter mind can still choose the answer that feels safest. This is why calm can become deceptive. Not because calm is bad, but because the mind can use calm as evidence that it has finally understood what it has only become comfortable enough to believe. This is where the confusion begins. A calmer mind feels more reliable than a pressured mind, and in many ways it is. When the pressure is extreme, you can react too quickly. You can reach for certainty. You can grab the first answer that reduces discomfort. So when the pressure drops, it is natural to feel more balanced. But balance is not automatically truth. A less reactive state can still be incomplete. You may no longer be panicking, but you can still be defending. You may no longer be forcing an answer, but you can still be avoiding the part of the answer that would disturb you again. You may no longer feel desperate, but you can still prefer the version of reality that lets you stay comfortable. This is why calm needs to be observed too. Not worshipped, not trusted blindly, observed. Because calm can be real and still not be clear. It can be peaceful and still selective. It can feel mature and still protect the same old pattern with a softer voice. That is the subtle danger. The mind does not always distort through panic. Sometimes it distorts through comfort. And comfort can sound much more convincing because it does not feel like distortion at all. The reason this works so well is that calm changes the way a thought feels. The same conclusion that felt anxious before can later feel clean. The same avoidance that felt nervous before can later feel wise. The same compromise that felt uncertain before can later feel balanced. Not because the conclusion changed, because the state around it changed. And when the state changes, the mind often assumes the meaning changed too. This is where perception becomes slippery. You are not only evaluating the thought itself, you are evaluating the feeling around the thought. If the feeling is tense, you doubt it. If the feeling is calmer, you trust it. But the feeling around a thought is not proof that the thought is true. It only shows how the system is relating to it in that moment. A thought can feel sharp and still be accurate. A thought can feel peaceful and still be incomplete. A thought can feel calm because it is true. But it can also feel calm because it asks less of you, because it protects you from a harder question, because it lets you stop before you reach the part that would make clarity less comfortable. This is why calm can become another form of confirmation. The mind says, "I feel better now, so this must be clearer." But feeling better only tells you that the system is under less pressure. It does not tell you that the perception is complete. It does not tell you that nothing has been avoided. It does not tell you that the conclusion has been tested honestly. It only tells you that the inner state has changed. And that change can be useful, but it can also become a new hiding place. Because once the mind feels calm, it may stop questioning the answer that created that calm. It may stop asking, "Is this actually true?" and start asking only, does this let me stay peaceful? That is a very different question. One looks for clarity, the other protects a state. And when protecting calm becomes more important than seeing clearly, the mind can begin to defend peace the same way it once defended certainty. Only now it looks more mature, it looks more balanced, it looks more reasonable. But underneath, the movement is still the same, choosing the answer that disturbs the system least. This is especially difficult because calm often arrives after a period of pressure. So by contrast, it feels like an upgrade. Before, there was noise. Now, there was space. Before, there was urgency. Now, there was distance. Before, everything felt too close. Now it feels easier to hold the situation without being swallowed by it. And that is useful. But useful does not mean final. A calmer state can give you more room to see, but it does not guarantee that you are using that room honestly. Sometimes, as soon as the room appears, the mind uses it to settle too quickly. It says, "This feels better. Let's not disturb it." And that becomes the new limit. Not panic, not urgency, but the quiet wish to preserve the calm that finally arrived. So the mind avoids the next layer, not because it is afraid in an obvious way, but because going deeper might make the calm disappear. This is how comfort becomes protective. It does not scream, it does not rush. It simply says, "Stay here. This is peaceful enough." This does not mean you should distrust calm. That would only create another form of pressure. The point is not to become suspicious every time you feel better. The point is simpler. Do not confuse feeling better with seeing fully. Calm can be a better place from which to look, but it is not proof that the looking has already happened. That is the distinction. A calm mind may have more space, but space still has to be used. It has to stay open long enough to notice what was missed when pressure was loud. It has to allow the uncomfortable part to appear again, without immediately treating it as a threat to peace. Because sometimes the next layer of clarity does not feel calm at first. Sometimes it brings tension back. Sometimes it reopens what the mind wanted to call finished. And if calm has become the new thing to protect, the mind will reject anything that disturbs it. Not because it is false, but because it makes peace feel unstable again. This is where clarity becomes different from calm. Calm says, "I feel less disturbed." Clarity says, "I can see more of what is here, even if some of it disturbs me." That difference is essential, because real clarity does not always preserve your preferred state. Sometimes it makes things more complex. Sometimes it removes the answer that felt easiest. Sometimes it brings back a discomfort you thought had disappeared. And that is exactly why the mind may avoid it. Not through panic, through calm, through the quiet desire not to lose the peace it finally found. So it begins to protect the calmer version of the situation. It stops looking where looking might make the picture less comfortable. It stops asking where asking might reopen the pressure. And because the mind still feels composed, this avoidance does not look like avoidance. It looks like stability. It looks like maturity. It looks like letting go. But sometimes, it is only the refusal to disturb a peaceful conclusion that has not yet been fully examined. Once this is seen, calm becomes useful again. Not as proof, as space. A place where you can look without being pushed so violently. A place where the mind can slow down without immediately assuming that slowing down means the truth has arrived. This is the healthier movement. You feel calmer, and instead of saying, "Now I know," you ask, "Can I see more clearly from here?" That question changes everything. Because now, calm is no longer the conclusion. It becomes the condition for a more honest look. You are not rejecting peace. You are simply not letting peace decide what is true. And when that happens, the mind becomes less easy to fool. Not because it stops feeling relief, but because relief is no longer treated as evidence. Calm can help you see, but it does not see for you. The looking still has to happen. This is inner cognition.